Today we're going to be talking about why the brand new Hyundai Veloster N is the modern equivalent of a Mazda Speed 3. Now viewers of the channel, you guys may remember that a little while ago we did a video on if the Mark III Ford Focus RS is a modern equivalent to a Mazda Speed 3. And I still believe that, nothing has changed with that, but they're two different points. I believe that the Focus RS is what a Mazda Speed 3 would have been if Mazda made a new one today. Whereas the Veloster N, I believe, is a modern equivalent to the Gen 1 and Gen 2 Speed 3. It has a lot in common. But to make that simpler, if you want a new car that's very similar to your Mazda Speed 3, get a Veloster N. However, if you want a car that is what a new Speed 3 would have been, get a Focus RS. Please just get into it, all the numbers, or what makes them similar, and all that. So I know a lot of you won't really know what the Veloster N is, so let's cover that. It's offered in either a 6-speed manual, or an 8-speed dual clutch, so please get the manual, it's a fun car, you know. It's front-wheel drive, of course, and it has either 250 horsepower or 275 horsepower in the performance model. And with that, it is 80 kgs lighter, which means that the 0 to 100 sprint is 5.2 seconds. That's like 0.6 seconds faster. And in the quarter mile, it does it in about 13.8, which is very similar, 0.1 seconds faster, not much. And then we've got to go and look at the dimensions. They're very similar, but the Veloster N is just a bit more aggressive. It's 2 inches wider, it's 3 inches lower, and 10 inches shorter. You know, when you increase the width, lower the height, shorten the car, it's got to look more aggressive, but they still are very, very similar. But then one thing, the track and the wheelbase are very similar, so they should drive, in theory, pretty similarly in terms of how stable it is at speed and how agile it is. Are you a fan of the channel, or this video, or something? It really does help if you like the video. Thank you. But now let's go into the reasons, you know, how it drives, and why does Mazda Speed 3 and the Veloster N are so similar. So first of all, you know, they've both got a little bit of lag. Most modern cars don't actually have lag anymore, but you know, this does create a bit of suspense. It's a throwback to the old school way, and it's just like the Speed 3. It creates fun and suspense. It also torque steers. A modern car that torque steers, what on earth? Now I know a lot of people are thinking, why? That's not a good thing. I mean, it adds to the fun. You know, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but if you do, it's fun. Though, of course, the Speed 3 is a bit more violent in its torque steer. It's an older car. What can you do? And with both the Speed 3 and the Veloster N, they target fun over lap times. It's here to make you smile and to make you have a good time. In fact, Throttle House said that this Veloster N is funner than a BRZ and a 370Z.
On this episode of Eat Sleep Drive, I buy the cheapest GT86 in the country.
Rev up your engine!
And a lot of people agree that it is funner than the brand new Civic Type R. Yeah. So you see, a Civic Type R is more lap times over fun, and Veloster N is fun over lap times. It's also got a factory LSD, unlike, you know, a GTI, just like what the Speed 3 had. And it sounds pretty good too. There's, you know, some pops and some bangs, and it's quite a fruity exhaust note. When you compare it to other modern hot hatches like this, yeah, it sounds pretty nice, in my opinion. And just like the Speed 3, it's quite alert. You know, it's not as chill and every day as a GTI or an ST. And then rolling into track times, right? Fast. Now the Veloster N doesn't have really many track times available because, you know, Hyundai wants to say, oh, it's fun, not track times. But, you know, one of the ones they do have is at Thunderhill Raceway. And with that, it went around faster than an F80 BMW M3 and a Tesla Model 3 Performance. I wish there were more times because I'd like to see how freaking fast it's around Nürburgring on the Top Gear test track. That's fast. And for the time, the Speed 3 was very impressive too. In fact, it was the second fastest front-wheel drive car around the Top Gear test track and about the 5th around the Nürburgring. And following on to it, the design, okay? It is still pretty clean but aggressive. You know, you look at the Civic Type R, it's just not a very cohesive design. And prices are pretty similar too. Obviously, you know, not used Speed 3, it's not, you know, $5,000. You know, new Speed 3 versus new Veloster N, very similar. You know, it's priced around a GTI, but it has way more higher performance than a GTI. Onto a little bit of a boring reason, so you may not like it, but it is also kind of pretty important. Now the interiors. Now I know the Gen 1 had basically the best interior for its time in its class. The Gen 2 not so much, and the Veloster N definitely doesn't have the best interior for its time. But that's because nowadays, modern cars have nicer interiors, so it's harder. But in terms of cars versus cars, you know, Veloster N versus Speed 3, they are pretty similar. You know, there's a lot of hard materials, no soft touch, the design is pretty nice, though the Veloster N has some really scratchy plastics, but it does have more tech and a more modern design. If you hop out of Speed 3 and hop in a Veloster N, you're not going to be disappointed. But if you hop out of a, let's say, a new Golf R, a Civic Type R, and then into a Veloster N, you'll be pretty disappointed. But, you know, we're not all car reviewers. We're real people, so we don't really notice that. And following on, the seats are good. But then, you know, they're not fancy Recaros or anything, but they're still good. They still grip pretty well. Not perfect, but pretty good. It's also got less rear space than rivals, just like the Speed 3. And fun thing, right? The Veloster N is Hyundai's first hot hatch, just like the Speed 3 was Mazda's first hot hatch.
Nice.
So then, how is the new Veloster N the equivalent of a Speed 3? You know, if you want a car that is similar to your Speed 3, but you want a new one, the Veloster N is it. Not only is the performance very similar, it is better, because if you're spending more money, you want more performance, but the way it drives is very similar. The way it sounds, the power delivery, the way it handles, what it prioritizes, the track times, the design, it's all very similar. That's the video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.